Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. I am honored to announce that today we are having Dr. Maria Sultan with us to talk about this recent Pahalgam incident. How are you, Dr. Maria?
I'm fine. Thank you so much.
First of all, thank you so much for your time. Would you please like to comment on this entire incident that just happened in Indian held Kashmir?
First of all, it's extremely unfortunate that such an event has happened, if it has happened the way it is being suggested. Secondly, what is even much more, concerning is not the fact that it has actually happened, but is the fact that it is being projected as a terror incident, while there are no conclusive evidence available either to Pakistan, has been made available to Pakistan, or even for that matter, the international community, other than some hatched media reports, which are indicating that 26 people have lost their lives, and if they have lost their lives, what is the actual, capacity of airing those bodies, airing those facts? It hasn't come forward up to now. So of course, it's a big concerning issue for Pakistan, because it has been linked to not only heightening of tensions between India and Pakistan, but has also led to a situation where there is India's decision, unilateral and illegal decision, in which they are trying to say that they would unilaterally abrogate, their Indus Water Treaty, their conditionalities under the Indus Water Treaty, which is of course not acceptable, but this is what that's being said. So this is unfortunate, and of course this is something which needs a deeper review.
Okay, so they've just said that they are going to abrogate Indus Water Treaty, which is definitely the violation of Article 12 of Indus Water Treaty, as well as violation of international laws of treaties as well. So how do you see this? A state is doing such immature things, and also based on just a blame. They have just said that we are behind these attacks, but certainly Pakistan is not responsible for these attacks, and then you are coming up with such harsh responses. So how do you see that?
I think it has to be seen in the context in which India is trying to, perhaps win its domestic audience. So the real question at the moment here for all of us is to understand, why is India doing this? One thing is for sure, it is definitely not for this alleged case of terrorism or cross-border terrorism or whatever they're calling that. Because when we look at the question of Indian held Kashmir, the world opinion is very clear on that since Article 370 was abrogated, and then India illegally annexed Indian held Kashmir into Indian territory by using the Indian constitutional Article 1 and 2 of the Indian presidential powers. We have just seen that the rights of the people of Kashmir, they have been set aside. So it's not a question in which they're fighting for the rights of the people of Kashmir. They themselves have illegally used their own constitution to take away those rights. So one thing is for sure, it's not about Kashmir. So the second question is it about actually India's domestic politics? Is it about, regional effects? That's another aspect. But in our humble opinion, the work which we have done on India's military modernization and stuff, we believe that there is much more to it. One thing is, as we all understand, that there is a US-China tariff war, and in this tariff war, 26% tariffs have been leveled on India. And Mr. Vance is also in India trying to renegotiate those, aspects of conversation with India. And in this context, the interesting part is that the United States is putting a lot of pressure on India to buy American weaponry, and also to live up to their agreements under Kamkasa, Lima, and most importantly under the DTTI. Now, as a result of that, as we look at India's military modernization, we understand that India is every 2 years inducting around 10% of US weapons. And these 10% of the US weapons basically means that India has to give a domestic justification. That why, they have to redraw their funds and relocate them to these defense allocations. We saw Pahalgam, we saw, India's unilateral action against China, if you remember. That was also something in Dolkham which was done. And consequently, if you follow the Dolkham incident, and then you follow Pulwama, you follow all of those, you see that there is almost a 10% increase in the defense budget. There is an instantaneous, warmongering in which they try to justify most of these domestic concerns. But I think it's basically about the negotiations with the United States and what they're offering to the US defense industry. and also maybe the sovereignty they would be conceding.
They have done this thing in the presence of J.D. Vance in India. So how do you see this diplomatic venture? Previously in year 2000, when President Clinton was in India, they did a similar thing. They killed some 35 Sikhs in India. So don't you think that they always do such things when something very important on diplomatic grounds is going to happen, and then they orchestrate a false operation, a false flag operation?
I think you have hit the nail on the head, because the question for India is not that they're in negotiations with the United States. The question is the image which they try to say, that they're equal to the United States. And we all understand they're no way equal to the United States when it comes to negotiations, when it comes to actually, coming up with any definitive stance with regards to their treaty obligations. And secondly, I think it's a two-pronged approach which they're trying to use. On the one hand, they are saying that they want to come out of an international multilateral treaty. So the signal is not to us only, but also to the United States, that India can do whatever it wants and it will not abide by international obligations. So if they can do this with Pakistan and they can risk a nuclear war over it, then definitely what they have done with the United States with regards to Kamkasa, with regards to Lima, with regards to STA-1, they can do that. But I think the bigger issue here is not about they actually coming out of it. Their bigger issue here is about another aspect, and that is what kind of sovereignty is actually India conceding to the United States over this? One. And number two, what is it that they're going to give to the United States? Because if there's 26% tariffs which have been imposed in India, and now India wants to renegotiate those tariffs, so of course they will have to concede. There will be some concessions. So maybe they don't want that domestic attention on those concessions. So they're talking about all of this. And I think one thing is very interesting, which we should not forget. There's a lot of rhetoric coming out of Delhi, and that's for sure. But what's interesting is that despite all of that, they have looked at all non-military options. So it means that the lessons they have learned from Pulwama are quite clear.
Pulwama,
they are talking about Indus Water Treaty. Now, this is a country which has got 3-to-1 military ratio with us. It is a country which says it is technologically standing with the, developed countries. And as a military option, you're saying this is such a big threat on your national security. Your national security has been violated. India is going to stand from Kerala to, Kashmir, at the onset of their boundaries with Kashmir, that they will be standing with the Modi government. And then you come up with Indus Water Treaty. What happened to the Indian Army? What happened to the Indian Air Force? Or what happened to the Indian Naval Forces? Or what they actually seriously think that they cannot actually hold a war with Pakistan? And let's not be very, I would say not be sanguine about it. And the fact remains that India has the right to initiate a war with Pakistan. We understand that and we respect that. But we also want this to be very clearly understood by New Delhi and all of those who are projecting that this is possible, that Pakistan would always retain the right to retaliate. Now, the question is where, how, when, and with what propensity it needs to be considered. And secondly, there are no wars without no economic costs. So if they are going to project this on Pakistan, there is going to be a very big economic cost which is going to be added on India. And is India really ready now that after 26% of these tariffs on United States being, imposing on India, do they actually want to carry the cost of war to the Indian population? So this is a question which the Indian population should be asking in, Modi's government rather than anything else.
Okay, according to the India's Ministry of Statistics 2024 report, 9% record high inflation in India has been recorded. So, and at the very same time, they have got a lot of unrest in Manipur, in Nagaland, in Assam, and in Kashmir as well. So, don't you think that they're just trying to divert the attention of their public towards an outside enemy rather than solving and fixing their own issues?
One is the easy target, is the easy propaganda target for them. So it's the entire state machinery which focuses on Pakistan threat, and the fact that they have actually lost the narrative on Kashmir. This might have been the narrative which they had taken over after 9/11, and it yielded results for it. But after what they did on 5th of August 2019, the way they have, taken away the rights of the people of Kashmir, the way they have tried to bring in the National Register for Citizens in these 7 states, and the way they have tried to link that to the Citizen Amendment Act, there are going to be bigger questions. The bigger question is not just going to be about India walking out of the Indus Water Treaty. The bigger question is this, that today, if India is doing this and setting a precedence that they can do this unilaterally, what makes them think that these legal orders which they are presenting on, on the Indian held Kashmir, or for that matter, in the 7 Sisters, is going to be relevant? Why should the people in, Indian occupation actually believe that there is any legality to India's legal actions in any way, if they can't even subscribe to international law? And the fact is that if this legal understanding is dismantled in India, we are going to be dealing with a lot of chaos, not only inside India, but also regionally. And then what is going to be the actual guarantee that today India is doing this with Pakistan on a treaty which is called
with others,
that tomorrow they will not do this out of their other international agreements? So this means who would like to do business with India? Who would like to reinvest with India when it comes to, multinationals, when it comes to all those people who want to look at the shining India, who want to come to the south of India and believe that India actually has something to offer?
I would want you to comment on the changing regional power dynamics. Do you think that the world order is changing, and do you think that India wants to be the regional hegemon?
Well, the world order has changed. China has emerged, and China is on the table. You are hearing another corner, another strong, resolute, strong China speaking. So the question is that, is India actually the same category? No. Instead of actually owning up to the discussions with VD, with Vance, what are we looking at? We're looking at their war hysteria with Pakistan. We're looking at it with a very desperate attempt to prove that a terror incidents has happened. We're looking at the fact that the world is actually not falling for it. We're looking at the fact that they believe that after this they can go for a reprisal. And the real question is this, that if they take any action, not only in Pakistan, but also in Indian held Kashmir against the Kashmiris, rest assured, Pakistan will respond, because, it's not something that we will allow another Gaza to develop in the Indian held Kashmir, because for Pakistan, Kashmir is Pakistan's jugular vein. Pakistan understands that for us, it's not a question of territory. For us, it is a question of people. And it is a question of the fact that it is the unfinished part of partition. It is the fact that, they're trying to hold on to the claim of an area and people which never belonged to them. This was Pakistan. This will always remain Pakistan, and futures to come. In the future to come, it will also prove the case. I think it's going to be very problematic, because if they politicize the Indus Water Treaty, then it becomes very clear that their claim to this Indian held Kashmir.
Some 3 to 4 years back, Prime Minister Modi said that water and blood cannot flow together. So don't you think that they have just orchestrated this entire attack so that they can do some manipulation with the Indus Water Treaty?
Resource wars is not something which we thought are going to be done in the past. Resource wars are what we are facing now. And if India wants to bring a resource war to the region, then it should be prepared for that. And I think the question is not about India actually looking at these resource wars. The question is this, that if they do this, it will have a direct impact with regards to also how China is going to respond to this water, because is it actually emerging from Kashmir? That's one question. Second is, how does Pakistan actually respond to Afghanistan as well? Because it's not just Pakistan which they're going after, they're also going after Afghanistan, because it's the same water which is actually going from Pakistan to Afghanistan, then coming back. So the real question here is that, is India actually that strong that it can go for a collusive threat against China, Pakistan, Afghanistan, and then yet to stand there and then believe that it is so militarily powerful? And I think the real question here is also that if they have got 700,000 military troops in Indian held Kashmir, they couldn't stop a terror incident around 400 kilometers inside Indian territory. What happened to all those posts which are at almost 100 meters apart? So it basically means that border fencing was a lie, or it was a facade. And it basically means that the Indian military has failed, that they couldn't even protect the, these tourists. And then most importantly, what the hell were these tourists doing in a military area? And who are these people that, they died and this happened? They're anonymous souls who just died. And what were they doing? Looking at conflict tourism, that they went to Indian-held Kashmir and they wanted to see how the military is functioning. They wanted to see how the Indian military is killing the Kashmiris. What was it that they were doing? And what kind of, tourism were they doing? This is not actually the tourism season if you look at it. It's, starting of the summer season and pretty much not the best of times for tourism.
Do you think that India would go for the violation of the line of control?
Yes, they will. They will definitely go for it because they're building up the domestic narrative for it. And they think that a small incident war is something which can be used to justify their weapons induction, to justify giving more share of India's domestic resources to American defense industry. So this is how the cycle has been, and this is what they will for sure do. Like I said, we did the study, and that study indicated that there is always an induction cycle which follows these incidences. And the question is, like, the disturbing part for them is not that their will to do this. They have the will. It is the fear they have that Pakistan might respond. It is the fear that how Pakistan will respond, and Pakistan did respond. Balakot is not something they should forget. It is something very real, and it's something which has altered the entire military perception of the Indian military might and their operational capability to actually respond to Pakistan. And that has been pretty clear.
Talking about the crazy guy, why do all such events happen during the BJP era? Is it some sort of practical manifestation of Hindutva or RSS psychology or what?
No, I think it's RSS psychology has a very deep economic psychology at the back of it. And what is economic psychology? Economic psychology is to make constant political majority in India, which is not issue sensitive. Like, they're not concerned about whether there's governance in India. They're not concerned about whether India's GDP is rising or not, but they're actually fighting the war on identity politics. So it's about marginalizing people. It's about disenfranchising history. We have seen that India's Hindutva policies actually brought the war and converted India into a people's war, where Hindutva has become a people's war, where you have got people who have been radicalized. And we understand that the process of de-radicalization is not so easy. We're still dealing with the first of Card War. So imagine the radicalization which they're doing in this age. How much time will it take for India to reclaim its soul? That's one. Second is that if they're doing it, then what is it that they're trying to gain? They're trying to gain that economic betterment, that economic shift within India, not by developing India, not by taking India ahead, but by actually taking away the rights from the minorities, by disempowering half of India legally. And third is this, that if they are going to do this, like they are going to walk out of Indus Water Treaty, then it basically means that for this government, legality means nothing. So if legality means nothing, then what is the protection of the Indian Constitution? What is it?
They have you comment on the Citizenship Amendment Act?
National partners or nationally or domestically. So it's not a simple question of India-Pakistan going to war. Yes, we can go to war, and if they think that they're going to cross over, it's definitely on the cards. But it's a larger question of India's entire political entities surviving this Indus water, I would say, fiasco which they built for themselves into a corner.
Okay, so one second last question. Your comments on the Indian Citizenship Amendment Act, and then we can wind it up afterwards.
I think the Indian Citizen Amendment Act has been perhaps something which is going to haunt India for decades. Because the Citizen Amendment Act is not just about linking the National Register for Citizenship, for the Indians who have got a Pakistani, a Afghan, or for that matter, a Bangladeshi, lineage, but it is also about disempowering people from south of India who have got Bangladeshi origins or who are Muslim. And then once you link it with the Citizen Amendment Act, it does two things. And that is going to be quite problematic. One is that it says that India can cancel the citizenship of all those Indians who are living abroad. So this basically means anybody who's gone abroad on a visa or anything else, this Citizen Amendment Act can be used to disempower them from their citizenship rights. So And that is one of the major reasons that we saw even transnational murders by India in Canada, and we saw others where most of the Indian community had been co-opted. That's what the Canadian investigation at least said, that people had done that, they had aligned with the Indian state, and one of the primary tools which the Indian state might have used would have been the Citizen Amendment Act. And the second thing is, what about the Sikhs? What about the others? And if this remains a constant factor, then of course it's not easy. It's going to be quite problematic, and India will have lots of things to answer, because if you disempower people, you can't re-empower them through a magic wand. It comes with a cost.
Okay, so last but not the least, any message that you would like to give to people, to the audience from our platform?
I think the only message I would like to give is that the seriousness of a state comes with the seriousness of its responsibility and its global power projection. And global power projection is not just about flexing of military muscle. It is also about the recognition that international treaties are legally binding. And if you are going to walk out of a legally binding sovereign guarantee of a country, then you cannot also be trusted as a legally binding investment savvy India. So those who want to do business with India, those who want to project India as a progressive state and even economic terms, forget about the Hindutva, forget about anything else. They need to understand that you're dealing with an interlocutor who can forsake anything for the smallest of pressures. So today it is their domestic audience they want to appease. Today it is that they want to hide the fact that they have to negotiate with the United States under pressure and maybe concede India's sovereignty, and for that they want to come out of an international agreement. Tomorrow they can do the same for millions of other firms who want to do business in India. So really, it's a big litmus test for the rest of the world that if this is the India you want, can you actually live with this India, and can you actually do business with this India, and can you actually believe that this is going to be the strategic the strategic partner for the United States in their pivot to Asia. And if this is the pivot to Asia, then God help Asia.
Thank you so much for your time, Dr. Maria. Thank you so much for meeting you. Thank you so much.